welcome to the podcast about interesting, everyday people. I'm Daniel Lance.
I'm Paul Gilman, and this is Pod 01.
Kyle Stephenson is a real estate entrepreneur and former football player for the University of Pennsylvania. This episode we talk about Kyle's origins as a first-generation Jamaican American, life in New Jersey, football, and how he got started with his first property that eventually led to a 30-year career in a successful real estate company. So here's Kyle. So, Kyle Stephenson, welcome to Pod 01.
Great to be here.
Yes. Now, Kyle, we asked you a while ago to join us, and you're a busy cat, so we're really glad to get you here, but I understand you've recorded another podcast. What was that about?
I spent, someone had given me a call. I think he was a real estate investor that did asset management and said that he had seen my name on a few articles and asked me to just speak a little bit about property management, I have a property management company. We manage 4,000 units in Virginia and have multiple offices. So he asked me a little bit about property management and what I thought the keys were to successful real estate investing.
You're supposed to send me the link so I can listen to it.
I will do that.
All right.
I'm going to have to find it.
Nice. All right, so you grew up in Jersey like my beloved bride did.
Yes.
What part of Jersey?
Center of the universe. So anybody that's confused, New Jersey is the center of the universe.
Let's be clear. The address you're at right now is Ashland, Virginia, also the center of the universe. There can be only one.
It's funny that you bring that up because there's a woman who works for me. Her name is Katie, and I said, "Hey, I'm on my way to the center of the universe," because you're right. Ashland, Virginia is also the center of the universe. I guess you're right. There can only be one, so we got to figure it out: New Jersey or Ashland.
So, what part of Jersey?
So, originally from South Jersey. So, South Jersey, as opposed to North Jersey, we're Eagles fans, or if you're in Philly, it's like Eagles. So we're Eagles fans, and grew up in a small town, a Levittown development, which is kind of that post-war housing. A gentleman by the name of Abraham Levitt developed a bunch of these communities. So just kind of blue-collar, working-class neighborhood. So that's where I grew up and lived there. My entire life till I left for college.
We'll talk about where you went to college here in a little bit and that experience. How did your family end up in Levittown?
So interesting enough, my father, who is originally from Jamaica, came to the States in his 20s. Ended up going to school. Ended up going to Howard. Was an engineer, civil engineer, and had an opportunity after graduating to relocate to New Jersey, and was introduced to my mother in some sort of church event many moons ago. And they when they got married, they moved to Willingboro, New Jersey, and raised myself and my younger brother, and we, I think both of us had great experiences in New Jersey and in Willingboro, and it's been a good run for us.
So your dad ended up getting a job up there?
He did. My father was a civil engineer for New Jersey Department of Transportation. So anybody in New Jersey from many moons ago, they're probably familiar with circles on the highway. And, fortunately or unfortunately, that was something my father was good at designing. And so there are a lot of circles all over New Jersey. So,
I don't know what circles you're talking about.
So circles are when, instead of having an intersection,
A four-stop intersection.
Roundabouts.
Oh,
okay.
Yes. So New Jersey was full of roundabouts.
Still is, yeah.
Still is. And also jug handles. So
Yes.
in New Jersey,
Yeah, that's so weird.
you can't make a left off of like a main road. You have to actually
You have to take 3 rights essentially, or a loop.
a jug handle.
Yeah, right.
That's interesting.
So-
and they have the pump in their own gas too. New Jersey.
So you gotta love New Jersey. So I always say, hey, if you are going through New Jersey, make sure your tank is empty because it's full service. So
And you're paying the same price.
and you're
roughly.
paying the same price
That's funny. I always try to avoid it because I don't like the awkwardness of it.
of it.
But
Oh.
if you like the service, man,
Well, people preferred it back in the day. So in a state like Virginia, you had the option.
And you
When I was
paid
growing
a
up.
premium.
Yeah, and you paid more for full service if you didn't want to get out.
So you
out of the
roll
car.
down that window, right? It used to be you roll down the window. Now I guess you press the button, the window goes down.
Yep.
And and so in New Jersey, it's like, hey, bud, what'll it be? And you're like, fill her up. And then they were like, regular? And you go, no, unleaded, because it used to be regular unleaded.
Right.
That was the deal. That's how it rolled, man. So
Nice.
so I still go back. I get a little excited when I'm like, hey, fill it up.
yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been to Jersey in a while, but I do enjoy that experience because it's so different.
So the roundabout thing is interesting because your dad is from Jamaica and there's British influence there, and the British love their roundabouts. So I wonder if did that kind of influence indirectly New Jersey?
Could have never thought about it, but yeah, he was all about the roundabout. I remember we'd go down a highway and it was like, oh yeah, I just developed this roundabout, or it's like that's awesome. People curse them, but it worked.
Yeah.
I guess for a while until the roads in New Jersey just got out of control.
Yeah,
with
just too
traffic.
much. Yeah. Well, I mean, Massachusetts, they love their roundabouts. Jersey loves their roundabouts. There are roundabouts popping up all over the place in Virginia now.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah. It's good for flow.
It
There's
is.
no doubt.
I think they work if the level of traffic is low enough. But as soon as you have Jersey level traffic, breaks down.
Or Philly, Jersey traffic, or New York, Jersey traffic.
With different personalities that are working the roundabout.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your dad grew up in Jamaica, and he was how old when he came over?
So he was in his early 20s, came to the States. It's the land of opportunity. So it's pretty interesting. My dad, probably like any other immigrant, just really wanted us kids to get a great education, work hard, focus on school. And so he comes over, and I remember. I mean, my family we grew up in an Episcopal church, and like we couldn't miss church. Like we would never ever miss church, and so it was a big part of our family. And so I remember asking him at one point, because he was ridiculously involved. I shouldn't say ridiculously, but he was very involved. And I was, I said to him like one time, like, had you ever thought about being a priest? And he said something that you wouldn't necessarily think of if you are an American. So he says, I would, I thought about being a priest. He says, but my concern was, he goes, so you have to take certain oaths if you're a priest. So one of them is the oath of celibacy. And I would think
that's where I stopped.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's where most guys would be like, ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
You're asking a lot there.
You're asking a lot, right? The concern that he had was taking the oath of poverty. And the reason was, he says, the reason he came to the States was so that he could take care of his family back home, because so many people needed support, financial support,
Right.
in that third world country. So, I always remember that. I always respected that. And, as I got older and had more interaction with some of the individuals in Jamaica, especially he passed away, several years ago, but, and I realized that there were things that were going on that that had his support that disappeared. For example, he had supported some private schools in Jamaica, or he had supported family members that were ill and needed health care. And so, it's good that I now, along with my brother, can kind of carry that torch.
Oh, nice.
But you just don't realize, how fortunate we are in the U.S. of A. here, from a financial opportunity. And
Right.
I think it's just we're in a capitalist economy. We got to kind of appreciate that. There's a game associated with that, and some people like that game, and there are other people that don't. But that's we're in a capitalist economy, so you work hard to generate your income, and then you decide what you want to do with that income.
Yeah.
So you're continuing to support what did you say, it was a couple of schools?
Yeah, so there are some boarding schools that he had supported, and then a couple of relatives. Again, we take things for granted here. I on a recent trip, I visited some relatives that he had made sure that they had a roof on half of their home. The other half doesn't have a roof. But that's very common, is that over time, you build a little bit of your house at a time. So you build it as you get cash coming in.
Right.
So it's not, you don't necessarily move into a home.
A fully developed place. Right?
No, you start off with a room, and then you get enough money for another room, and that could be a 10, 15, 20-year process to get your home built.
Just like paying down a 15-year mortgage. But
that's right. But a little different.
kind of the opposite.
Instead of getting it up,
exactly.
Instead of getting it up front.
That's right.
It's like is what it would be like without loans or mortgages.
That's right.
So where's your mom originally from?
So mom's originally from Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay.
And so grew up in Baltimore. She was a school teacher in the New Jersey school system, Trenton, New Jersey. And it's interesting because as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, man, those are two people that, she worked in the school system for 30 plus years. He worked as a civil engineer for the state for 30 years. And that's kind of what it looked like. You got a pension, very healthy pension. And, I'll say that the thing that I'm very fortunate about and appreciative of is, I had a mother and a father that, cared and wanted us to focus on school. And, I think having a strong family helps you as you progress in life.
Yeah. They're there to push you. They're also there to support you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, this association with success from just like, getting married before you have kids and getting through high school is really high. Just having two parents makes a lot of difference in someone's life. So that's pretty cool.
Very cool. And by the way, you and I have that in common. My mom was a lifelong educator, and my dad worked for the state government.
Here we go, man. And look at us now. We're both like incredible human beings.
Well, exactly.
Ball
In my basement, in the middle of
That's right.
middle of Hanover County. Yeah.
Center Universe.
Yes. So the university.
So-
You can't forget that.
there was a strong emphasis on your education from your parents, and that led to you getting into a really good school for college. Tell us about that.
Well, before you
process.
talk about that particular college, how many places did you apply to?
Oh, pretty ridiculous. So the one thing that I will tell you my parents didn't help me with is probably my self-confidence. So for whatever reason, I felt like I couldn't get into any school. So I applied to 13 schools.
Oh my gosh, that's painful, especially back in the day because everything was manual.
It was all handwritten.
Ooh.
So ouch. So I mean, it was everything from Seton Hall to William and Mary to UVA to Penn to Princeton. I'm trying to remember a couple.
So wait a minute, you went after really hard to get in schools.
Oh, yeah.
Really good schools, But you figured there was a 1 in 13 chance you'd get into one of those really good schools.
Right. Yeah, basically, that's it.
Well,
and that's how I started my gambling. My gambling problem as well. Just joking.
You just hedged your odds. It's fine.
Right. That's it. Someone will take me.
That's business.
That's right.
Yeah.
Got to hedge. Well, I don't know if we told you he went to William and Mary.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, sir.
Great school.
Did they let you in?
They did let me in, but I wasn't. Even though I'm 2 foot tall, I was a pretty good.
How tall are you, Kyle? Because we're gonna talk about
legitimately 5'7".
Okay.
Which is probably 5'6.5".
But you played college football.
I played college football. Ended up playing at Penn, 3-year letterman, which is
and let's
ridiculous.
be clear, it's not Penn State.
That's right.
It's
don't
University of Pennsylvania.
Yeah. So which was good in the 40s, but not necessarily in the 80s. They were national powerhouse in the 40s.
Yeah, them in the Army.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Exactly. So, but I actually got a lot of history there. Was fortunate enough, 3-year letterman, got to play at Annapolis and
nice.
Got to play in some pretty cool historical stadiums. And I mean the Ivies aren't they're not a powerhouse juggernaut, but they're it's competitive football,
super competitive.
Yeah, and it's a good education. So it was I had a great experience. It was a blur. One of the things I did while I was there is I had also, again, my parents are pushing to make sure that you learn and then you have life experience as well. So the interesting thing is it was very important for me to understand that I was going to have a job once I got out. This wasn't, I wasn't there to learn just for the sake of learning. I was there
to get a ticket.
To get a ticket to go work somewhere. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like, hey, come back home, and that's not what they looked at school for. So I ended up getting an internship with a company, Scott Paper Company. So Scott Tissue, Scott Towels, Cottonelle.
Was it Michael Scott?
Dunder Mifflin? It wasn't Dunder Mifflin. It was not Dunder Mifflin. So
the right state, though.
There you go. You go. Actually, that's right. Yeah. And so I would get up. It was pretty crazy. So my day would look like I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I would go out and work at Scott Paper from 6 till maybe 9 or 10. Mm. So when most people were driving in, I was getting ready to leave. And then, football's a commitment. It's every day. So I would go to school from probably, my classes were from 10 to maybe 2. And then you go down to the stadium. And the older you got, the more beat up your body is. So you go down to the stadium around 2:33. Practice is from 4 to 6. Then you got to go to the training house to eat. At least that's the way it used to be.
Right.
And then maybe there's film, and then you got to study, and then you do it all over again.
Were you getting 4 hours sleep a night kind of thing?
Yeah, or 6. Yeah. It's a grind, 4 to 6 hours a night, and then you get after it, and then Thursday night you leave for away game. Friday you're doing walkthroughs, and maybe you're studying a little bit. And Saturday's your game. After the game, you get on a bus, or you get on a plane. You come back. Sunday, you wake up. You got to go. Usually, it's kind of like a check-in to make sure that you're still okay. Sunday night, is you still remember it. Sunday night would be film. I know it was film review. And then I think Monday you started with your film for your next game, and that's people realize if you really want to play college football, that's your schedule.
That's a real commitment.
It's every single day during the season. You may get a day off.
Scott Paper Company was Monday through Friday.
So that was Monday through. Well, it wasn't really Monday through Friday. During football season, maybe it's 3 days a week
Right.
because you got away games, you got a lot of stuff going on. But that was a great experience. So I did that actually for I think 2 or 3 years, and then ended up after college going and working for them. But then I got a little bit involved with real estate as well.
Yes, you did. Let's not leave football just yet, though. So, what do you like so much about football? Because you clearly were dedicated to it for a long time.
So
And you still are.
I still am. Yeah. So, it's the ultimate team sport. You have all different types of athletes, all different types of sizes, all different types of kind of mindsets. Where a defensive lineman is just a grunt and grind person relative to maybe an offensive lineman that you kind of look at as they're a little bit less emotional and probably a little bit more intellectual. And, a linebacker who has to really just understand formations and has to make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And if one person doesn't do what they're supposed to do on a play, the play blows up.
Yeah,
and
weakest link.
It's the weakest link, and I really look at it when it's orchestrated correctly. It is like a symphony. It is like ballet on the gridiron.
It's ballet with men brutally running into each other.
Yes. So I just think it's an incredible sport. I admit that it was much more violent many years ago. Over the past probably 10 years, I'm really impressed with the new tackling techniques. It's something, quite frankly, I didn't believe in the beginning.
Didn't even consider. Right?
Didn't even consider. And when you realize these new tackling techniques actually allow little guys to take down big guys easier, and it happens to be less violent, but it actually works a lot better.
It's effective, and it's the long-term effects are not as bad.
Yeah. So I'm a big advocate of the sport. I do believe some people are predispositioned to concussions. And those individuals, if you have a concussion, you need to reconsider the sport.
Yep.
That's what I believe, but I don't. Based on other things that I have seen, other sports that I have seen, I don't look at it as anything that is more scary than soccer or more scary than, I've seen people get blown up with a baseball where they have some pretty long-term challenges. I've seen some pretty gruesome wrestling
MMA.
challenges. Yeah.
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 A lot of concussions.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy so football, it's not an individual sport at all. You said it's ultimate team sport.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy being one of those cogs that had to move perfectly to make sure the play worked versus being a leader or an individual?
Well, let's back up. What position did you play?
So believe it or not, I was a
I can't wait to hear
245-pound nose guard. No,
Wait, hold on. Keep talking, Kyle.
So
I'm gonna have to draw this up for you.
Okay.
So honest to goodness, and at this point I had dropped some weight. I think it was in my senior year because I just watched a clip. It was an ESPN, so they were doing. I don't know why ESPN was. I guess they were just getting rolling, but they had IEV football on Saturday.
Oh,
so.
Cool.
So I just watched. They just released this thing with on ESPN, and I looked at myself and watched myself playing, and they're like, "He's a small one, but he's a good one."
Oh, you have that.
I just watched it. I showed the kids last. I said, "Hey,
That's awesome.
There's your dad."
Wow.
All right, the O's are offense, Daniel.
All right.
The X's are defense.
The O's are on top.
Yeah,
Bunched together.
The
X's
quarterback's
are
that
spread
dude that's just behind the center.
out. Okay.
Okay, that X right there in the A gap. is the nose guard.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're trying to get in there and sack the quarterback?
I am, but I got everybody coming at me from every different direction.
He's a run stuffer, and he's in the middle of the maelstrom.
Just the middle of just a
Chaos. Dang.
Yes, correct. And so I like being, so the interesting thing about when you're in your teens or you're in your early 20s is you can't appreciate the dance. You can't appreciate the ballet. I think you're that individual. You're just that.
You're too into yourself.
You're too into yourself. And if there's something that I look back on, I'm like, man, how come I couldn't be more mature and understand just everything that, we were trying to do and the philosophies of whether it's gap responsibility. I mean, all this, all this terminology we don't need to get into on the podcast, but that's one of the things, like, I look at now, like the linebackers, and I go, those guys were probably just more mature than I was, just a little bit brighter. I just wanted to maul. I mean, they almost had to, just say, hey man, line up in, that left A gap or whatever, and just, make sure you don't lose your gap responsibility. So admittedly, I think that, there's a level of maturity as we get older that you start to appreciate, even with I get it now with business. I'd been a salesman, so for a large part of my life, that's kind of you're an individual. When you're selling, you're an individual, and so to run a firm or really start to become a leader, you learn how to appreciate teams and the function of teams and individual strengths and weaknesses. So part of that, I think, is just getting older and wiser, and so it's been good. It's been a good run. I sound like an old man.
And you get to appreciate the symphony.
And I get to appreciate the symphony. I mean, there are times, seriously, I look at film, I go, oh, that's so beautiful. Like, I'm just like, oh, everything flowed, and wow, this person actually got downfield and was able to block, I go, this is exactly the way it's supposed to look.
It's the way it was drawn up.
The way it was drawn up. The hole opened up where it was supposed to open up. Everybody took the right step. All of the linemen, zone blocked, and stepped down. They stepped with it, and it looks like a ballet.
Do you try to get so you coach high school?
I coach, I'd coach youth for a number of years, and now I'm dipping my toe into high school.
So do you try to get the youth / the high schoolers to appreciate that beauty, or do you kind of see it as you'll appreciate it in good time?
So I think one of the reasons we did okay was that I don't know if we necessarily talked about a symphony, but we did talk about, you can either love Bill Belichick or not, but, that everybody does their job, that we're a part of a team, and that, we're not going to be the biggest, the fastest, the strongest football players. We're not. That wasn't, I didn't have those players. And so we were kind of upfront and transparent about that. We said, but here's the deal. We're going to be more disciplined. We're going to understand the game better. We're going to do our jobs. We're going to work together as a team. We're just going to work a little bit harder. And so we focused on that, and really had a nice 13-year run with a bunch of different teams, and quite a bit of success, at the youth level. So
awesome.
Yeah, and the teams that do the things you just described really, really well tend to win a lot of games.
They tend to win a lot of games, and they don't necessarily have to have the best athletes. One of the things I really used to enjoy, and I can't remember. I'm embarrassed. I can't remember the guy's name right now. He retired a couple years ago, but the guy that was at Georgia Tech that ran the triple.
He was dedicated to it.
He was dedicated to it, and the guy didn't get 5-star athletes, and he
couldn't. Right?
He couldn't, right? And so when you take a look at that, when you take a look at the academies, a lot of times, because they have limitations on the sizes of their athletes, they have to do something a little different. And so So those are the things that make me, that's what gets me excited, to be able to take a look at a Navy or an Army and see them compete maybe against.
They play Notre Dame every year,
They
right?
play Notre Dame every year.
Yeah.
Every year,
Paul Johnson was the guy.
Paul Johnson.
Yeah.
What a flipping monster.
Yeah.
Paul Johnson.
And
God
they
bless
fired
him.
him a couple years ago, right?
I think he retired.
Oh, did he? Okay.
I think he'd been coaching for over 40 years.
That's a long time. That's a really long time. That's a really long time. So you're now high school, dipping your toes in high school because your son is playing?
So he is. I don't know if he's going to play at the high school I'm coaching at.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
We'll see. But I'm at Freeman. It's the gentleman that I'm working with had a great track record. I used to watch him at the youth level. Now he's a high school coach. I like the way he communicates. I like the way he pumps up his kids. His kids aren't the biggest, the fastest, the strongest, or our kids aren't the biggest, the fastest, the strongest. But I know he focuses on discipline and commitment, to work as a team, and those are the philosophies I really try to live by. Yeah, so I'm excited about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Does your son go to that high school?
He doesn't. So he's going to apply to the center.
Gotcha. This is Henrico County.
This is Henrico County.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
All
we'll
right.
see.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. And all right, so let's talk about your family real quickly, since we brought up your youngest child.
Yeah.
You have how many kids?
So I have 3 kids. I have my oldest, who is now at UVA. So you know a little about that.
I do. Not the virtual thing that he's doing.
You don't. No, you don't. So he's at UVA, and he made the marching band.
Nice.
And so hopefully he'll get to march next year. Because of COVID this year, that's not happening.
Right.
What does he play?
He plays slide trombone.
Nice.
So he is all about the brass, man. He's all about the low brass.
That one always looks like the most fun.
Man, he's I'm excited. He's his dad. He says, he goes, there's a low brass house. He goes, I think I'm moving to the low brass house next year.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I was like, you do it, man. You do it. So I'm
cool.
really excited. So he's and so he's at UVA. My daughter is a pretty intense young lady that loves soccer and is playing pretty competitively, and we'll see how that works out for her.
A little scholarship wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yeah. So we're working towards that, and we'll see how it goes. And then my youngest is just football's his first love. He's a great wrestler. Doesn't embrace the sport as much as I'd like him to. So I gotta work through that.
He's young.
He's young.
He doesn't embrace wrestling or football?
Oh, he loves football. He's not wrestling is not his favorite, but he's
good. He's naturally good at it.
He's naturally good. Well, he's worked so hard at it, and so he's good. And I think wrestling does a lot for you in other sports. So we just gotta figure that out. So
Are any of your kids taller than you?
My gut is when it's all over, all of my kids hopefully will be taller than me. My son towers over me, which isn't hard to do. My daughter's about my height.
Okay.
And the youngest one right now is not tracking super well, but he's just kind of, his voice is just starting to change. So I got my fingers crossed for him, because he really
he could blow up.
That's what he wants.
I think that most people want that, right? Yeah. You never meet a 5'7" guy that's like, oh, I'm glad I was 5'7".
Yeah. I remember, it's crazy. Again, this is probably putting age on me. I remember it was some episode on the Brady Bunch, man, where Bobby was really, kind of bummed out about his height. And I'm like, hey, I can identify with Bobby.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're 4 inches taller than Muggsy Bogues.
There you go. He did okay.
He did great.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you're doing okay too.
Yeah,
so. I would say, your son that's not feeling the wrestling as much, I would recommend Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a way to maybe
lean back into because there's a lot of wrestling involved with jiu-jitsu, with the takedowns, and then he might really be into all of the submission stuff as well. So that's just a thought.
You're saying that from a place because you do jiu-jitsu.
I'm obviously biased.
Yeah, exactly. You're like,
I really enjoy it.
Good.
So, yeah, I don't know. I didn't wrestle in high school, though, so it is a different dynamic because you're on a wrestling team and you're going to compete. Jiu-jitsu is much more individual. Yeah. So, yeah.
Cool. All right, so Kyle, after college, you were selling.
Right.
And you were traveling a ton.
So, interesting. Yeah, so I ended up staying with Scott Paper for a couple of years. Okay. And really was enjoying it. But one of the things when I was at Penn, Donald Trump was huge at the time.
Well, didn't he go to Wharton?
He did. Yeah. He did. And so he had his picture up on the wall, but while I was there, he got into some trouble. So, shocker. And so they pulled it down. Now, it was him. There's another guy, Boatsky. Ivan Boatsky.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he got into some trouble. And then...
Ivan was big on Wall Street, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It was Ivan Boatsky. I can't believe I just forgot the other guy who went to jail. So Boatsky went to jail, and Michael Milken.
Yep.
So, yeah. So, so that's where I went to school.
It's the top 5 NBA program.
Yeah. So there were some issues around integrity. A big thing when I was at school there, because that was what had happened with Trump and with Milken and Boatsky. So long story short, it kind of inspired me because you just would hear about Trump real estate. And again, when you're in your early 20s, you think you can conquer the world. You have no clue kind of what the starting points were. So I didn't realize that Fred Trump, Donald's
brother, right? Or his
father, kind of got him rolling with about $250 million. So
by the way, I'm not that hardworking. I'm not that smart, but even I could be successful with that.
With $250 million, man, yeah. So
was all the Trump talk like just like this guy is doing really well and he's a case study, or is it he went to our school? Let's talk about him.
I don't even think really people were. You understand he was huge with the media. He was crushing it. He was doing a bunch of things in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't really this word around campus. At least I don't remember it being that way. I just looked at it and just was like, holy cow, man. You look at these buildings in Manhattan and you're like, all right, why can't I do that?
Did your dad hand you $250 million?
Yeah, so that was the tripping point right there. I didn't realize that even until like 10 years later, right? I'm sitting there like on my first real estate deal, and I'm trying to scrape off some, a few shekels off my credit card, and I was like, all right, so I got this duplex in a pretty rough neighborhood in Patterson. I'm not sure how I'm going to get from here to Manhattan, but I'm going to keep it rolling.
They seem like two different planets, right?
Yeah. That's because they kind of were.
Yeah. So you sold some stuff while you were dabbling in real estate. So real estate, to use today's terminology, was a major side hustle for you, but that was not your core income.
So I was literally selling toilet paper. I got a part-time job. I always talk about my part in New Jersey because nobody can have like one job in New Jersey like to make ends meet because it's so flipping expensive.
Right.
So I worked selling toilet paper, and then on nights and weekends, I worked at Tops Appliance City. Topsy. I always say, you pull it up, probably Google it. So Topsy, again, New Jersey's just kind of, forget about it.
Yeah.
So literally on their ads, it was like, refrigerators for $500. Topsy, forget about it. Topsy has it for $400.
So you were like a floor salesman?
I was a floor salesman.
Yeah.
You know? And then I was trying, and then in New Jersey, you're also trying to upsell people on that warranty that, so it was like, hey, you know, anything, suppose the refrigerator gets hit by like a lightning bolt. You got to have, we'll replace it, you know, your refrigerator, you know, suppose it breaks. What's that supposed to break? Well, you know, for
Things
extra
happen.
50, things happen, you know.
And what was the when you were selling toilet paper? How did that interaction? Did you just walk into offices and try to sell it?
No, you don't. No. You go to grocery stores to sell it, but you just cut people deals. Hey, if you buy, you know, half a truckload of Scott tissue, you know, we can give you, you know, a certain percentage off of each roll. And that's still probably the hustle.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so I used to sell Baby Fresh, Baby Fresh, Baby Fresh wipes, pre-moistened towel wets.
Yeah.
So
They still make those, right?
They still make them,
Yeah.
man. So I sell up, call it 20 pallets. Like, hey, I'll come if you buy this Baby Fresh from me, I'll come and do a display for you. So you go out and you take the Baby Fresh off the truck and you put it up, and that's what you were doing.
That's hustling.
That's the hustle. So I did that, and then and so I kind of was putting a few shekels together, and then I ended up being able to do my first
Real estate.
real estate deal.
So when I met you, I think you were doing surgical equipment.
So what happened was, so I relocated. So I had the opportunity. Pretty good at just sales and learning sales, and so I had the opportunity to sell surgical equipment. So a lot of people are like, well, shoot, don't you need like a medical background to sell it? No, really, you just need to know how to sell toilet paper.
Yeah, but the grocery store guy's different than a doc. Aren't you selling the docs?
It is.
Yeah.
So you, you learn your basics of whatever your craft is, and then I spent several months learning about specific parts of a procedure, of a surgical procedure, and then you can hopefully be a consultant to that physician, that surgeon, with that specialty that you learn. So it's funny because once you get into it, you're actually spending more time in the operating room than the surgeons do for a certain procedure, because you're just focused. So we, for example, if I spend a bunch of time on hernia repairs, well, shoot, I may sit in 10, hernia repair surgeries a week, and that surgeon may only do, 1 or 2 a month. And so you actually, in observing a bunch of surgeries, you end up, learning tips, from other surgeons, and you actually become a resource for those surgeons. So it's a pretty fulfilling experience.
So you're learning by all that repetition and by all that engagement with the surgeons. Is it to change your product to make that equipment better, or was it to figure out how it could best be used, or both?
Yeah, so it's both. So, there was a gentleman who I really, just sitting here with you guys, I think about the guy. There was a guy in Norfolk, Virginia, a general surgeon, and he was really committed to his craft. And we had a product that he really liked. And while he was using that product, he learned how to use it in a manner that wasn't being typically used. And we created a great procedure. And with that, we created a course. And so surgeons from all around the country would come in, and we would fly them in to learn how to do a special type of, it was called an incisional hernia. Sometimes people have, they've had a prior procedure, and so they have an incision where that procedure was, and that the forces of the stomach, the abdomen, may push or create what we call an incisional hernia. And so there are ways to fix that. And this guy had a great way to fix it that that really I think changed the way that incisional hernias were repaired for several years probably.
Right.
And so we got to do that together.
Yeah,
So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Was it always hernia sort of surgeries?
No lie. Now that I think about it, your wife's parents helped me do classes on it.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
How freaking scary is this that we're talking about this 20 years later?
Yeah, it's weird. Super weird.
Yes.
That's right. Y'all had the Jersey connection.
No. So your wife.
I know y'all met down here, but
yeah. We had the Jersey connection.
They moved here in 2000.
Yep.
Yeah, to be near. To be near me. Mm-hmm. My in-laws moved down here to be closer to me.
That's right.
Yeah. So you clearly like entrepreneurship. So tell us what you love about entrepreneurship.
Oh man. So what I love right now, kind of in my life, is creating goals and then getting from A to B, and I'm the one who kind of helps create the execution plan to do that with help from others. And really, at this point in my career, taking teams, making teams better, making individuals better, learning from individuals, allowing people, even let's say I have some weaknesses, and getting coached up about my weaknesses. I mean, all that to me is entrepreneurship. I'm not a serial entrepreneur. Right. I love real estate and I love deals, but at the core of it, I have a team that means a lot to me, and I want to have a positive impact on their lives. I mean, that's what, and it gets me high every day. I love what I do. I say this all the time. I love what I do. Like probably 95% of the time. Like there has to be 1 to 2 days out of the month that I'm like, this is pretty crappy. But the other time, I get up and I'm energized and love what I'm doing.
That's cool. Most people can't say that.
Yeah.
So, real estate can be up and down, right? It can be awesome at times, and it can be rough at times. I remember talking to you, I think back in 2010, 2011, somewhere in there, and what I remember walking away from that conversation, you basically said, I've proven to myself that I'm a grown man because I can survive what just happened in the marketplace.
Yeah.
So talk about the giant recession and how you worked your way through that at a fairly high level, and then talk about what it's like these days with the pandemic.
Sure. So it's funny because I know exactly, I guarantee you, I know the story that I told you about where I had bankers playing poker with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay.
I didn't know that they could do that.
They could do that. So we'll talk a little bit. So it's interesting. So I think, again, what you don't realize is, I don't know if it's every 10 to 15 years or cycles, but when the real estate market collapsed, well, number one, I guess in 2007 is when I left corporate America.
Timing couldn't have been worse.
Timing couldn't have been worse, man. And you didn't know it because it still felt pretty good in 2007. So at that point, I had accumulated a decent amount of real estate and said, okay. And I also felt confident enough to go out and help other people or partner with other people to go out and actually buy, let's say, an apartment building and get a loan for it and manage it and make sure everybody makes some dough. And then in September of 2008, the music stopped. Lenders would not lend you money for a stick of gum. It was pretty flipping bad. And so why is that difficult? Well, if you have a deal, even if it's the most incredible deal in the whole wide world, you can't buy it. So you're kind of stuck, whatever you have, you get to keep. Now, what also happened and what can happen in difficult times is loans begin to default. So when loans begin to default, lenders can get a little bit concerned. And if somebody else is not paying their mortgage, on their property, they need cash because they don't have cash coming in. So while it sounds a little crazy, they may not, with commercial loans, those loans have shorter termination dates. It's not like a loan on a house.
It's not a 30-year.
It's not a 30-year, maybe 5 years. So let's just say that your loan is coming up in the beginning of 2009. They want their money. They want all their money back. So if the balance, let's say, is $1 million left on the loan, they're like, "Hey, Kyle, we're not going to renew your loan." And if you don't have $1 million laying around, that's a problem.
Which, when everybody stops paying rent, you don't get that $1 million.
Correct. Well, even if they are paying rent,
you don't have all that.
You don't have that because you're just making a little bit every month. So that's a problem.
And you can't borrow it further
because nobody's lending you money.
Right.
Yeah, they were speeding up a 5-year loan and turning it into a 3.5-year loan. Yeah.
It just was really, really messy. Or they would say, hey, if you can't pay it back, then maybe we're going to increase the rate, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. So it really, I use the term, it was really a nut cruncher.
Because you kind of just had to sit there and like
you
let
got
it happen.
that? Like you feel, like kind of,
like a squeeze.
Yeah, like a crunch.
In a very very delicate part of the body.
It was a nut cruncher.
Yeah.
So
how long did the nut crunching go on?
Gosh, I mean, it was probably 2 to 3 years.
Ooh.
2 to 3 years. It was pretty uncomfortable. It was pretty uncomfortable. And on top of that, admittedly, people didn't have their jobs. I'm not. I don't want to go get too deep into the weeds on what's going on right now, but people really didn't have any jobs like back then. Like now, people are choosing whether to work or not work, which is a whole top. But then they didn't have jobs. I mean, it was bad. Default rates were horrible. I mean,
it was bad for a lot of people.
It was bad.
Yeah.
So, what's going on now, even with COVID, I really, really believe this. There are some market problems, like there are specific market problems. Like you got retail, you probably don't want to be in retail. You don't want to necessarily be in office space, right? Those are just, hotels, a great example. If you're at a hotel at the beach, a destination one, they've been packed because people are trying to social distance away, in the United States because they can't travel internationally. But if you're a hotel in an office park,
you're done.
You got a problem. So it's real specific where things are going well and where things are going sideways. We've been very fortunate. I know I'm doing this podcast at the end of 2020, but we've been incredibly fortunate through the pandemic. I don't know if that's going to change. I do believe we need to, as a country, probably consider expediting getting back to work. I think that you just have a core group of people that are taking advantage I shouldn't say they're taking advantage. They're using the pandemic as a reason for not working. Yep. It's a small percentage, but there are people out there. Now, I say that. I'm sure there are things within the stimulus packages and the CARES package that, as a landlord and a business person, I've taken advantage of. So I think we just kind of need to just ease back, whether you're a business person or whether you're you're at home not working. We just kind of need to get back to a sense of normalcy.
Yeah, because then it'll be a nut crunch again, but for the whole country.
Correct.
Not just for real estate.
Correct.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Because this can't continue for much longer.
Right.
What we've been doing. The good news is the election's November 3rd. And
Right.
we might see things change significantly after.
We'll see.
the 3rd.
We'll see. We'll see some change one way or the other,
Yeah.
because I believe that the elections, on whatever side you want to be on, the elections have delayed some of the progress.
That's right. Yep.
Yep.
There's no doubt.
So I want to ask. Earlier, you talked about the game, like right at the beginning of the podcast. You said the game. Some people love playing it. I wanted to get your thoughts on it, and specifically like on the game versus. There might be people who might not like the game, but they still want to do good, but they don't make a lot of money. So like teachers is the example that I go to a lot. They're not really interested in the capitalist game, and they're doing probably one of the most important jobs in society, but they're not getting paid very well. Whereas like people that like to play the game end up getting paid really well. And how do you see like the natural balance of things between those two groups of people?
You didn't know this was going to be so deep.
Yeah, this is a deep one. So I think one of the things I've said throughout this is you want to touch people and make a difference in people's lives. So if I could find a way to educate the teacher about even minimal wealth development, because there are things that you can do even if you're a school teacher to generate more wealth. And it may be before I leave, or I just talk about the single family home. If you have one rental and you've done everything you can and you've made all the sacrifices you can to afford to purchase maybe one rental home, mm-hmm. and you do that when you're in your 20s, which the problem is we're not thinking about retirement in our 20s. That's the hiccup. You can just that one home alone will subsidize any retirement plan that you have. And that's, it's understanding a little bit of leverage, understanding, what I think to be is the best investment vehicle in the whole wide world, and that's real estate if you do it properly. You can be that millionaire. It's just that it does take some effort, and some people may view it a little bit as a grind, but I think the fruits of the labor of real estate really help subsidize your future.
Yeah, and they make you, they lay the groundwork for you to become financially independent long term.
It really, really does. And I'll tell you again, my first deal, which I did everything completely wrong on my first deal. There's nothing I did right. Okay. Nothing.
You went over. Yeah.
I went over. Okay. That deal was done probably 30 years ago now. And that deal has evolved into, so that was a $3,000 investment that yields, call it $50,000 of income a year now. And but it didn't feel that way for a real long time.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to explain that now if somebody listens to this podcast, to say, okay, so in 30 years, if I do this now, I'm going to feel like this 30 years from now. It's really, really hard, man. It's because you're talking about stuff that's just not conceivable. When you're in your 20s, you never can envision yourself being 50 years old.
You can't see past the weekend.
You really
when
can't.
You're in your 20s.
Yeah.
Not all 20-somethings, but most 20-somethings.
Yeah.
We're looking at Daniel when we say 20-something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, and it's like even for people that are think to themselves and say, I'm not good at all that dealing and buying real estate and invest. I'm not good at all that stuff. There's still, like, maybe you would say a fundamental level of knowing how to play the game to really protect yourself and your future that, most people should probably learn to be able to play at least minimally, even if their full-time job during the day is something like being a teacher.
Yes, because it allows them, if they still love teaching, let's say in their 30s or 40s or 50s, if they created a small foundation for themselves in their 20s, heck, man, they can teach. They're going to feel free to teach in any way or anywhere they want to go. It's that freedom that our economy allows, right? And so that's the thing that I'd love to encourage people to understand. But the hard part is it's sacrificing now for future opportunities. One of the things, and it's Jerry Rice's quote, and I'm going to butcher it. But it's something, he says something like, I'm willing to do today what others won't so that I can achieve tomorrow what others can't, or something like that.
Right.
I can't remember. Somebody needs to Google it. But it's basically do what you need to do now so that later, you can achieve things that others can't.
You can become the best wide receiver in the history of football. Yeah. I mean, he's by far the most prolific receiver.
Right.
To ever play the game.
And when you look and when you think about his workouts, I mean, even, I want to say that he tried to play or was playing a little bit even in his early 40s.
Yep.
And they're like, the guy just works out like other people don't.
Right.
And so that's why he is who other people aren't.
And his dad was a bricklayer, and he was helping Dad lay bricks, and he would do all kinds of crazy things.
Yeah.
Helping his dad lay bricks, and he's like, nothing's going to be harder than that.
Right.
For me.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. You had mentioned that your mom had COVID for a while.
Yeah.
Can you tell us as much as you feel comfortable?
Absolutely. So, So I'd like to share this experience, and hopefully this has, this helps other people understand this virus. So, in May, somewhere around the first week of May, I got a phone call. My mother has AIDS because she has Parkinson's. So not AIDS, but AIDS.
Right.
And so
Helpers, yeah.
There you go. Just want to make sure there's no confusion there, right? So my mother has helpers that work with her, make sure she's okay, take care of her, just improving activities of daily living. So, and so I received a call. Hey, your mother's not doing exactly. We have some concerns. She has a dry cough and a low-grade fever. And so I was like, holy flipping cow, this is not good. And and I'll tell you, it's just kind of this sinking feeling. It's, when you get that phone call, a bad phone call. So fortunately, because I was in healthcare, I did have some connections at HUP, University of Pennsylvania Hospital. And so I made some calls. I'm like, look, my mom's symptomatic. Do you have beds? How are your outcomes? So the individual was like, look, get her up in here. We can get her tested within 2 to 3 hours. And so I went up to New Jersey, ended up picking up my mom. And so, my mom is in a wheelchair. She has a mask on. I mean, it's just freaking eerie, right? So it's nighttime. I have gloves. I have a mask on. And I'm with my brother. And so we got to get her into the car. And, we probably need to have the windows down because, we just don't know what, this virus is about. So we take her in. I will tell you to wheel your mother into the emergency room and not know whether you will see her again alive, because they're like, hey, you got to leave. And you go through these, we went through this tent. It's really, it's a very helpless feeling. And then, so I'm trying to find out whether she tested positive. I'm trying to get all of this information. And again, if you don't have contacts, I try to explain the healthcare system's a little bit different. So I was able to find out she, the next day, she tested positive, but she's doing okay. She's on a little bit of oxygen. She's going to come home in a few days. That was the deal. And as we all know now, there's a second wave that hits you. So a few days later, I'm speaking with the doctor. As I'm speaking with the doctor, he says to me, oh my God, I got to call you back later. Your mother has collapsed.
Oh, you're hearing that on the phone.
Yeah, and then he hangs up. All right. So now I'm sitting in a hotel room because I'm quarantined.
Right.
And I'm waiting for someone to call me back. And so, long story short, they call me back and they're like, look, this second wave basically has hit your mom. We don't know if she's going to survive. Okay.
Mom's in her mid-70s?
My mother is 90.
Oh, wow.
My mom had...
Wow. Yeah.
Okay, my mom is 90. And they're like, look, do you want to put her on a ventilator? And I was like, my mom's request was to be put on a ventilator. She wants to fight it. And, but they're like, but if she goes on a ventilator, she's going to die. I mean, they say she's probably going to die. They say something like that, but at the end of the day, she was going to die. So fast forward a few more days. So her just breathing is bad, issue with her heart. I mean, it felt like it's unraveling. Like, look, we really don't want to put her on a ventilator because it's not good. We have this thing called helmet therapy where we can put this helmet on her to help her breathe. I mean, it just
sounds crazy.
It's freaking nuts. So I look at this helmet and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So we then were fortunate enough to get her involved in an open study remdesivir clinic.
Okay.
And that was the turning point. She was in the ICU. Again, they kept calling, hey, you sure you want us to put her on a ventilator? Like, I mean, it was touch and go. 2 days later from remdesivir, she gets off and she comes out of the ICU. I'm talking to some of the ICU clinicians, and they're like, they're kind of celebrating her leaving the ICU. And I don't want to get too much into what the clinicians said, except that there were a lot of people in the ICU that were in really, really bad shape, and they were very happy that my mother was leaving.
Yeah.
So that's the story on my mom. They then put her on an anticoagulant, anti-clotting drug.
Right.
For 3 months. So, even though she went in May, she didn't really fully recover until like August.
Wow.
And now she's doing okay.
She sounds like a badass.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she
I thought your mom was in her 70s.
Yeah.
70s, I figured you got a fighting chance.
Yeah.
90?
90. Yeah, man. I mean, it should have been lights out. We're real fortunate. My mom just pretty much wasn't ready to check out.
Yeah.
And so that's the deal. So so it's kind of a funny story. She just says, hey, listen, I mean, I was supposed to have a party this year, so we got to move it to next year. So I'm not going to die.
Yeah.
We got to do the party.
I need to be at the party.
I need to be at the party.
Yeah.
Daniel, you want to hit him with the standard question?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Kyle, the ever busy guy, has a meeting or call
very
in 9
soon.
minutes.
All right, we'll do this. It's a little lightning round question. If you were 25 years old and didn't have any responsibilities, would you rather try to become a stand-up comedian, or join the military, or start buying and flipping real estate?
No. You're adding the third. The third one's not part of the standard question. I mean, you can answer that if you
I was
want.
going to say, I wish I hadn't been so wimpy and had done real estate earlier in a bigger way. But, stand-up comedian. Yeah. Military would not have been good for me.
Really? Why not?
I think mentally, I think they would have just broken me.
No. No way.
I don't think so. Honestly, you remind me a little bit. Have you heard of Jocko Willink?
No. Good person?
He's a Navy SEAL. He has a podcast just all about discipline, getting after it, and you remind me of him a little bit. Like your build, it actually reminds me of Jocko. So I think you would have been fine.
Yeah. How are they going to break you? Not physically, right? Because you played football in college. You knew how to deal with all that.
But I just...
You didn't want to be yelled at? That lasts for like 8 weeks.
Really?
Yeah. Or 10 weeks, whatever it is now. Yeah.
And Paul couldn't make it.
Well, you were in the reserves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I
National Guard.
I thought they just kind of kicked the shit out of you.
Nah. They do in basic training. They break you down, and then they're rebuilding you in their mold, or the mold they want to rebuild you in. But it's actually, the camaraderie is amazing once you find a unit.
So that's probably, I probably don't understand. So I just watch things on the movies.
Yeah, you're thinking of Full Metal Jacket.
Oh, no. You know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of You Can't Handle the Truth. They order the code red on me.
Yeah, that's all basic training. That's
Colonel Jessup.
Yeah, that's Marine Corps. They're Paris Island. Yeah, you deal with it for several weeks and then it's over.
So suppose they order the code red on me.
Then you're gonna get.
Then I got a problem.
You're gonna be in some pain for a while. And you're going to get your stuff together so you don't get the code red any longer or another time. Yeah, it's a good time. So comedian, huh? And it's to avoid the mental breakdown.
Yes, the code red.
Yes, the code red mental breakdown. The code red induced mental breakdown.
Interesting. Because I feel like stand-up comedy might induce a mental breakdown of its own kind.
It seems like more pressure.
Yeah.
I don't think Kyle caught through the comedy side of the question as much as he did the military side.
I was just worried about Code Red.
We'll keep it simple, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not a Marine, so I don't know anything about Code Reds, but I'm sure they're not officially sanctioned. But I'm also sure that things still happen.
Well, he said on the stand, we don't order Code Reds.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's the official answer. All right, cool. So you mentioned your kids. Be great if you could say their names because hopefully they'll listen to the end of this. Yeah. And then just tell us about your wife a little bit.
So my oldest is Kyle. My middle one is Julia. My youngest is Warwick, but a lot of people can't pronounce the name. So including his siblings.
Really?
So he ended up, because they were calling him brother, and then it came out to Butter. So everybody calls him Butter.
Oh, nice.
So that's his deal. And then I got an incredible wife, Anne, who is very patient with me. She allows me.
Oh, she has to be, right?
Yeah. So she allows me. Thanks. She allows me to follow, the real estate dreams and the football coaching dreams, and
she lets you be you.
She lets me be me, and so I owe her, a lifetime of appreciation that I need to be able to show better.
Yeah, this
was all unsolicited. She didn't say, "Hey," she didn't know anybody. But I really, I think it's difficult sometimes because she just doesn't. She doesn't realize how much I appreciate it because I do a poor job communicating.
Yeah, I'm awful at that. Well, hopefully she'll listen all the way through this and she'll hear what you just said.
I hope
because you clearly mean it.
Yeah.
And your son Warwick, is it Warwick?
Warrick.
Oh, okay.
Who was he named for? Anybody?
Work done, baby.
Yes, he is. My favorite
Football?
team's running back. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He played for Tampa Bay.
He did.
Yeah, and Florida State before that.
Buccaneers, baby.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
right. Daniel and I have known each other for a little over a year now, and he thinks I'm just about. He knows I love sports, and I talk about the Buccaneers, so he literally thinks I'm like a one-dimensional guy, and he's probably right.
I don't know.
I like the way the Bucs are playing right now.
Well, we've paid a lot of money for a lot of really talented people. Let's see if it works out.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And your coach is from New Jersey.
Yeah, Jersey guy. Went to Virginia Tech, I think, undergrad. Played ball at Tech, and then he just coached everywhere. Coached at Temple, and
I like him, man. He's scrappy.
he's definitely scrappy. Definitely scrappy. All right, you want to end talking about your Eagles, or is this a bad year for you to talk about your Eagles or your Eagles?
Eagles.
Wow. So what's scary, right, is that they're in first place right now with a 2-4-1 record.
That's crazy.
The comment has been made, in for the NFC East. They'll say, well, the Eagles, are they trying to win the division, or are they trying to get a first round draft pick?
I think they're trying to do both, maybe.
Yeah, you can do that's the comment. So you may actually be able to do both in the NFC East right now.
If they lose their last game, they might get the second pick overall, kind of thing. And if they win their last game, they could go to the playoffs.
So what's scary is that 5-10-1 may win that division.
That's the worst record ever. It has to be.
That's 10 losses.
Yes.
And one beautiful tie to the Bengals.
Yikes.
To the Bengals.
Yeah. Awesome.
Wow.
Well, Kyle, it's been great having you.
Thanks.
We would talk a bit more, but you've got a call in 2 or 3 minutes.
2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah,
Busy man.
All good.
But thank you so much for joining us.
Love
We're really
you guys.
glad you did it.
Thanks for having me do this. This was
thank you.
awesome.
Well, hopefully your kids enjoy it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
And other people too.
Yes.
All right.